life, to life, to life, to life. This is an evening called Celebrating Our Mistakes. I want to begin by telling you a short story. It's a story of the Baal Shem Tov. He was the first real storyteller among the Hasidic Jews. This particular story is about a wise king who decided to build a strange, wonderful palace with many passageways, corridors, and doors. In the center of all these passageways and doors, there was one room, a throne room, and in it was the king's throne. Now, when the palace was built, he invited the people of his small kingdom to come to his throne. And the people came, and they started in the door, and they immediately became lost because it was a maze. And they said, "There is no one door that leads to the king. There is no one door that leads to the king. Where is the door that leads to the king?" Because each one was thinking in his mind, when he got to see the king, what would the king say? What would he say? What should he be wearing? How should he be standing? What should he be doing? And with all this confusion in his mind, each one of them became lost. And then, at the last minute, a simple man came running up. He was late because his daughter was sick, and he came running up so eager to see the king. He ran in and arrived immediately at the throne room, and he said, "Every door leads to the king when your heart is open." So, this is what Shlomo does for me, and I believe he will do it for all of you. The door which leads to the king is open when your heart is open. Shlomo sings, and slowly, 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 one gate, another, and another, and another, opens up to the very inner gate. And when we are in that place of the very inner gate, then the learning that we hear, the prayers that we hear, and the stories that we hear go inside directly. So I would like all of you to welcome my rabbi, Shlomo Carlebach, who's going to begin by singing.
person supposed to do the night before Yom Kippur? Setting up, most of us are a little misinformed. Because most people think the deepest preparation for Yom Kippur is, Mamash, you feel so guilty. You feel so guilty you don't even have the strength to call up your therapist. Because, you see, you're so worthless that you don't even deserve to spend a quarter on a phone call. You know why we make so many mistakes and feel so guilty? Because we forgot really how holy we are. And we forgot completely that God is leading us by the hand. Anybody who knows a little bit what Yom Kippur is, it's a day when we have so much love in the air because we forgive each other, because we know God forgives us. So the Emma and I decided tonight is a time to celebrate our mistakes. Because obviously if God lets me make all those mistakes, it's just to learn something from it. You see, I cannot let my child jump off the roof because, God forbid, they're jumping off, I cannot save her. God lets us jump off the roof because He's standing there and holding us. Anyway, let's sing some more songs. So tonight, those few minutes we're here, I'm begging you, all of us, let's just be so happy for everything wrong we're doing.
Reb Shmerel was a schlepper and a sinner. A schlepper was Reb Shmerel and a big sinner. But he didn't worry about sinning because he knew that every year on Rosh Hashanah all he had to do was to go to the water and throw his sins in. So the years went by and he did as he wished and he worried about nothing. And his wife said to him, Shmerel, don't you realize we don't have any children? Do you think why it might be? But he never worried about it. And then a year came when he did something worse than he had ever done. Usually he would do a little sin here, a little sin there. He put it in the drawer, he put it in the closet. But this was so terrible. It was so putrid. He had to put it in the basement. But even there in the basement, it smelled. It seeped through the whole house. And he couldn't wait for Rosh Hashanah to get rid of it. It was so putrid what he had done. So right before Rosh Hashanah, he got ready. And he went down, and it took him a whole day to get it up out of the basement. It oozed, it spread. It moved along. He'd go this way and it would go that way. He chased it all over the basement, and finally he pushed it up the basement steps and he pushed it out of the house. And then he had to roll it and push it and roll it and push it. And when the waters saw it coming, and they knew this man Shmuel because he'd been coming every year with putridity. And when the waters saw him coming, the waters moved back. And he took it, and he threw it in, and the waters, they fumed, they furled, they spumed. They wanted to get rid of it. But you need to know that every being on earth, when it is created, is given a purpose. And one of the purposes of water is to clean. And even though the water wanted to get rid of this putrid sin, that was why the water was there. That is why water is there, to clean. And so the waters enfolded the sin and slowly, slowly, slowly untangled it and cleaned it. But the waters were very angry. Soon after this, Shmuel looked in the window in the mirror, and he noticed that his hair was getting gray. And his wife too, her hairs were getting gray. And still they had no child, and he thought, I shall go to the Baal Shem. He's my cousin. Everyone goes to the Baal Shem. They ask him, and he does whatever is asked. Why shouldn't he do it for a relative? So he goes to the Baal Shem, and he says to him, Master, give me a son who will live after me. And the Baal Shem looks at this schlepper who's never done anything for anyone. And he sees the schlepper's wife, who is a patient, gentle, holy woman. And he says to him, you will have a son. That's all I can say. And Shmuel asks nothing more, and he goes home. A year later, his child is born. It's a son. And this boy is so beautiful. His face is round, he's plump, he's strong, he's sweet, he's quick, he's so lovely, he's so precious that Shmuel turns around 180 degrees and he becomes a completely different man. He cares about everyone. He cares about his wife. He cares about his neighbors. He becomes helpful. He becomes gentle. Anything he can do for anyone, he is so eager to do because life is so precious. And then he thinks, what am I doing? My cousin gave me this child and I haven't even thanked my cousin. He says to his wife, I have to go to the Baal Shem. I must thank him. His wife says, go. And he goes to the Baal Shem, so eager to thank him. And he walks in to ask him how he is, what he can do for him. And the Baal Shem looks at him with the saddest eyes he's ever seen. And Shmuel knows something is wrong. Then he knows it's his son. And he falls on the ground and he says, tell me. You have to tell me. What is it? The Baal Shem shakes his head and he says, your son will grow. He will be healthy. He will be strong. When he is 13, he will drown in the sea. No, 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 he cried. cries, and he falls on the ground, and he turns around and around and around, and he weeps like a child that he had never wept like before. He weeps and weeps and weeps, and he cries, and the Baal Shem cannot stand weeping. Stop, he says, stop, stop. There's a way, he says. There's a way to save the life of your child. Listen, the sea is very angry with you, but on the day when your son is 13, keep him away from the sea. Of course, that's it. I'll do it, Shmuel says, thank you. I can do that. Wait, Shmuel's running off. Wait, what is it, Master? You'll forget. No, how could I forget? It's my son, you'll forget. Please, let me go home. Listen first. I'm going to give you a sign. On the day you wake up and you put both your socks on your left foot, on the day you make that mistake and there's no sock on your right foot, remember. And he thanks him, and he goes home, and he forgets all about the foolishness of the socks. And his son grows and becomes a wonderful boy. He speaks well, he's gentle, he's kind like his mother, he's funny like his father. Everyone loves him, the girls and the boys. And this young boy, what he loves to do the most is swim. Every morning he's in the lake swimming. And he grows, and his father is so proud. And for his 13th birthday, they prepare a great feast for his bar mitzvah. And he's forgotten completely about the socks. And he wakes up the morning of his son's 13th birthday, and the sun is coming in the window. It's very bright. It's a very hot sun. It wakes him up, and he gets a headache. And he reaches down for his shoes, and he sees his sock, and his head is aching so much. He puts one of the socks on his left foot, and he puts the other sock on his left foot, and he looks for the socks, and he can't find the sock for his right foot. And he begins to hop around the floor on his left foot. And he knocks over the table, and he knocks over the lamp, and his wife wakes up and she says, what is it? What's happening? He says, where's my socks? I can't find my socks because his head is aching like that. And she says, Shmuel, look at yourself. Look, you're wearing both your socks on your left foot. Then he remembers, and he runs to his son's room, and the door is open, and his son isn't in bed, and he opens the door, and he sees his son in the distance, running to the sea, and he calls out, stop! But his son thinks he's calling out, happy birthday, and he runs even faster. And then he starts to really run. He runs as fast as he can run, but he's an old man, his son is young. And he runs, and he sees his son coming closer and closer to the sea, and he calls out, Master of the universe, save him! And just then his son trips on a root and falls. And he runs, and he picks him up and takes him by the arm, brings him back to the house, puts him in the closet, and locks the door. I want to go swimming. It's hot, his son says. Wait. I'm hot. What is it? Wait, his father says. I'm thirsty. Wait. He's afraid to even give him water to drink. He waits the whole day. Now, this is the hottest day anyone can remember, and everyone is at the sea. And at the hottest moment, just about noon, there's a ripple in the waters by the shore, and it gets larger and larger, and there's a swirl. And out of the swirl a great seaweed hand lifts up and begins to search the beach. And then a second great hand comes up and begins to search the beach. Back and forth, these seaweed hands move. And at last, a voice said, "He's missing." And the hands sink down into the sea. When the sun has set, Shmuel unlocks the closet. His son is fast asleep. He wakes him up. He blesses him. He kisses him. And they have a small feast to celebrate his 13th birthday.
About 15 times in the middle, so just get me some seltzer. Where does it say you don't say l'chaim with seltzer, right? L'chaim! Maybe it was today, maybe it was tonight. The children sit stealing harness or horses. Somewhere. The travel like Diane talked about. The Holy Ghost Shinkin doesn't travel, not as a subway, not as a missile. Different kind of traveling. Finally we come to a forest. We get off the beaten path. Drive to the drive. And the horses stop. In the middle of the field, there was a grave. Hashem says to the Chassim, sit down. Give me a little wine. Give me a little cake. And l'chaim! son in Russia. There were two families. Both are very wealthy. Very good families, noble families. One had a son, one had a daughter. The son was so special. The little boy had a soul to be the biggest study in the world. Sadly, of the girl, her soul wasn't that big. All she wanted to make money, to be rich, to be richer. But in those days, they made them off. They were so rich, there was no need for them to have a business. But she says, you know, I want to make some money. So her parents opened the store for her. She never entered the store. It was learning day and night. And every night when he'd come home, his wife would tell him, I wish you would come at least for 1 hour to the store and help me run the business. He says, we don't need the business, we're so rich. You just have the store in order to have something to do, but I don't want to waste my time on it. She was begging him to make it short. First week he came for 1 hour, then it was 1 hour and 15 minutes, then 2 hours, then 3 hours. Slowly, he came up learning, became a businessman. One day his wife says to him, you know, it's heartbreaking. We get all our merchandise from St. Petersburg and we have to pay the middlemen so much. If you would go to St. Petersburg yourself, you could save all the money. But there was a time when he found it terrible, and for a Jew to be in St. Petersburg was death penalty. So he says, I can't go, I'm a Jew. She says, do you have to look like a Jew all the time? For a few days, don't look like a Jew. Goes to St. Petersburg and calls on this rich man, this great merchant from whom he buys merchandise. And he's so happy, his greatest customer has come. And he says, tonight I'm making a little dinner dance in your honor. This rich man has a beautiful daughter. After the dinner, the rich man says to our friend, you know, my daughter likes you. She wants so much to dance with you. We have a little dinner dance. How could we say no? So they're dancing together. Suddenly the girl runs out, and her father's running after her. He says, how could you put my guest to shame? He's my biggest customer. Every year I make millions from him. She says to me, you know something? While we were dancing, his tzitzis fell off. He's a Jew. L'chaim! He's a Jew. He calls him into his office, holds a pistol. He said, let me tell you something. He might be my best customer. But a Jew is a Jew. If you convert, I'll let you live. If you don't convert, I shoot you right here. But by now he was so much of a businessman, he figured, what does God gain if I be dead? And he's right, on the business level, he's right. So he converts. So now the man says to him, now that you're not Jewish anymore, you're a newborn person, why didn't you marry my daughter? She loves you. Why not? He lives with his wife for 10 years. And he's very happy. Makes a lot of money. And they have 2 children. And not even once did you think that he's a Jew. Wiped out his whole past. One day, he looks at the calendar and he sees it's Yom Kippur. Suddenly he remembers where he was before. When he was young, when he was little, he wanted to be the holiest Jew in the world. He It was completely dedicated to God, to the Torah, to Yiddishkeit, to holiness. He began crying. He couldn't find a place in the world for himself. And he realized there's only one person who can console him: the drunkard. His father-in-law had hundreds of miles of forest. And the person who was guarding the forest was a drunkard. And he was always happy. He thought, I don't care, I'm jumping on a horse, riding out to the drunkard, and he'll console me. Open your heart. He comes out of the drunkard, and the drunkard is lying on the floor crying. He says, drunkard, why are you crying? He says, so why are you crying? He asked you first. The drunkard says, swear to me that you'll never tell anybody what I'm telling you now. I swear. I want you to know that I'm a Jew. I want you to know that I am a Jew. And today is Yom Kippur. And on Yom Kippur every Jew stands before God. And give Allah do I stand before the only one. Can't stop crying. Why are you crying? Swear to me. You never tell. I swear. I want you to know I'm also a Jew. I want you to know I am also a Jew. Today's Yom Kippur. And on Yom Kippur every Jew stands before God. And how do I stand before him? So the holy drunkard says to him, listen to me, if God sends you to me on Yom Kippur, that means I'm the one to tell you what to do, to fix your soul. I want you to go home, take all your money. You left your first wife without telling you anything, you can do it again. Take all your money, go back to your city where you belong, go back to your wife, but only one condition. Don't ever set foot in that store. Sit and learn day and night, and only on Shabbos come home, and I bless you to fix your life. L'chaim! L'chaim! He did so. He went home, was learning day and night. Open your eyes even deeper. Exactly a year later, his wife in St. Petersburg looks at the calendar and she sees exactly a year that my husband left me. I haven't heard from him. My children are crying for their father. She's crying so much, she can't bear it. She says, the only one who could console me is a drunkard. She rides out in the forest, and there the drunkard is lying on the ground crying. Drunkard, I wanted you to console me and you're crying. Why are you crying? Swear to me. Swear. I want you to know that I'm a Jew. And today's Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. And today we are standing before God, Gewalt. What do I stand before him? Why you cried? She said exactly 1 year ago, my husband, I love him so much, I love him so much. Left me and the children, how could I ever stop crying? how could I ever stop crying? So he says to her, if God sent you to me on Yom Kippur, that means I'm the one to fix your soul. Let me tell you where your husband is. Tells exactly the name of the city. Go there, check into a hotel, and meet your husband. And God should guide your step. She doesn't tell her father. She takes her belongings, takes her children, and she goes back to the village, checks into an inn, and she says, I would like to, let's call it for namesake of a family. Can you get me an appointment with this person, the rich Jew of Avimelech? Oh, he says, it's impossible. He lives like a hermit. He only comes home once a week on Shabbos, and all week long he's in the synagogue. She says, please, you have to help me. It's a question of life and death. He says, okay, I'll tell you something. There's only one way. Shabbos, on Friday afternoon, from the synagogue to his home, he goes to the mikveh. I'll tell you where it is. Wait for him outside. Just picture it, friends. He thinks he has reached already a high level again in holiness. He's coming out from the mikveh by immersing himself. He has his wife from St. Petersburg. There's a touch in it. Pastor goes with you. She says, I have to talk to you. He says, I'm begging you, I'm crying before you. Please, you and the children, don't say a word. I live in the palace. Be my guest for Shabbos. I promise you to serve to you. After Shabbos, you go to the rabbi, and he will tell us what to do. After Shabbos, he takes his two wives to the rabbi. The rabbi was a great Kabbalist, a divine person. And he says to the rabbi, Holy Rabbi, let me tell you my whole life story. He tells him, when I was young, I wanted to be so holy. I wanted to be so good. I got married. My wife dragged me down. Said he was a businessman. Because of my wife, I went to St. Petersburg, and I had no bad feelings. Converting to another religion didn't bother me. I was living for money. But Holy Rabbi, let me tell you, my wife from St. Petersburg, she never mentioned the word money. All she was talking to me about being a high person. Because of her, I had the strength to go back to be a Jew again. Holy Rabbi, I'm begging you in God's name, tell me, who is my real soulmate? He says to him, let me tell you, your wife in St. Petersburg is your real soulmate. And I want you to know that she is the soul of our Holy Mother Ruth. Her soul is so precious. It was important enough in heaven to bring her back, that they let you make all those awesome mistakes for 10 years to stop being a Jew. For 10 years, not even remembering there's one God. A year later, her father looks at the calendar and realizes that exactly 1 year that my daughter left me with my 2 grandchildren. Can't stop crying. He goes to the forest. Drunkard is crying. He said, "Drunkard, why are you crying?" He says, "Swear to me, you'll never tell." "I'm a Jew. It's Yom Kippur. Why are you crying?" He said, "Because my daughter left me a year ago. I don't know where she is." How the drunkard says, "If God sends you to near Yom Kippur, that means I'm the one to tell you what to do. Swear to me that you'll convert. Swear to me that you'll become a true servant of God. And I will tell you where she is." He says, "Wouldn't I need my money? Was that my only daughter and my 2 grandchildren? For them? For anything?" He swears. He says, "I'll tell you where they are. He sells everything he has, also the forest, and the drunkard and the father-in-law are on their way to see the daughter." The Holy Washington said, "Here in the middle of the field, the holy drunkard died. This is his grave. Doesn't he deserve we should come here and say l'chaim to the holy drunkard who fixed so many people's lives?" You know, my beautiful friends, we all need the holy drunkard. Somewhere. Some of us are looking for big heroes and big tzaddikim for Father and Mother teachers now. I'm looking for the holy drunkard. And I bless you and me. I bless our children wherever they are. Go out to the forest to be consoled and find the holy drunkard and tell you, today's Yom Kippur. Today is the day to stand before God. Chaim, friends, Chaim.
Shlomo spoke in synagogue about the shofar, and I think for me that's the strongest part of the new year, or one of them anyhow, is the sound of the shofar. It's a ram's horn, and it's blowing for every person in the world, waking us up. And one of the things he said is that there's names that are given, and it's Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah. And Tekiah means to blow, and Shavarim means broken, and Teruah means completely destroyed, and it also means friendship. So the last 2 stories I want to tell are about friendship, because I think that's relationship is a part of starting the new year. This is both of them you've told in synagogue. This is a story about the seer of Lublin. There was a poor water carrier named Moshe, and what he loved, just like what I love, is to be with his rabbi on the new year. So he got up early and he walked until he came to the synagogue, and he opened the door, and he came a little late, and they had already begun to daven, and the rabbi saw him, and he went like this, "Moshe, go." And Moshe didn't understand because he had walked so far to come there to be with him, and he says, no, go. And he can't leave, he just stands there, so the rabbi goes up to him and he says, "Moshe, go home. Go home to your family." And it's the day before Rosh Hashanah, and he starts home. And he stops at a little inn, and he's so sad that this Rosh Hashanah he can't spend with his rabbi, that he starts to cry. He's not really crying, but his soul is crying. And a friend of his, who's a real friend, sees that the man's soul is crying, and he comes over and he says, Moshe, what is it? And he says, my rabbi says I should go home not to spend Rosh Hashanah with him. And he says, Moshe, let me buy you a drink. A little drink of vodka, you'll feel fine. So he buys him a little drink, and he says to him, L'chaim. He drinks. And then it turns out there's a lot of Moshe's friends there in the tavern, and they all say, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. There's so many friends. They're all drinking. L'chaim, 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 to life, to life, to life, to life. They all say, and he's drinking and drinking and drinking until he's forgotten everything. He's just dancing around the tavern. And he says, this is the new year. I'm already in the new year. He's dancing, he's singing, he's dancing, he's singing, because he's drunk every single one. And finally, his first friend says, Moshe, have you forgotten why you're sad? Oh no, he says, and he remembers. My rabbi told me to go home. If you love someone the way you say you love your rabbi, I wouldn't go home. I would go back to him. L'chaim, Moshe, I'm going back. He says, I'm going back right now. And he goes out without his coat. He goes running and running and running until he comes to the shul, and he knocks on the door. And the seer opens the door, and he sees him, and he says, Moshe, I am so glad to see you. Come in and let's pray. And he says, Rabbi, wait a second. I'm a water carrier. I'm a simple man. I don't understand. You have to explain to me. I came this morning, and you said to go home. And now I come back, and you say, come and stay. When you came this morning, the seer of Lublin said to him, you walked in the door, and behind you was standing the angel of death. You had maybe 4 hours to live. I thought it would be best that you be with your family. But when you went to the tavern and your friends blessed you with life, and not one friend held back from you, when every single one blessed you with all their hearts, Moshe, the angel of death fled. So come in now and let us welcome the new year. And I have one last little story about mistakes. And this is also about poor Moshe and the seer of Lublin. He was a schlepper. And every time he would come to synagogue, he had this terribly ragged shirt on, just kind of patches here and there. And one day the seer couldn't stand it anymore, said, Moshe, come into my study. And he gave him a shirt which was made of one cloth. He says, Moshe, go and wear it and be a mensch. Moshe goes walking down the street, and he's so proud of himself. He has on, the first time in his life, a new shirt, all one piece of material. He's walking down, he's whistling, and here comes Yosha, the town drunk. Yosha says, what a shirt. That's a great shirt. Where'd you get the shirt? Seer of Lublin gave it to me. Really? Oh, I wish I had that. You want it? Sure. Here, take it. He takes it off. He gives it to Yosha. Yosha goes at full speed to the tavern keeper. He says, this is the shirt of the seer of Lublin. What will you give it to me for? What will you give me for? What will you pay me for this shirt? The tavern keeper says, 1 year's supply of free drinks sold. The next day in the marketplace, the tavern keeper says, what am I to bid for the shirt of the seer of Lublin? Any woman who wants a baby will have triplets. Any man who's having trouble in the marketplace will have his stock go up. What am I to bid for the shirt of the seer of Lublin? The seer of Lublin is walking through the marketplace, and he sees his shirt. And the next glance, he sees Moshe wearing a shirt all in pieces. And Moshe looks at the tavern keeper, and he looks at the seer, and he runs up to the seer, and the seer says, no, Moshe, no. I can't help you. I can't. And he walks away. And Moshe, he walks out of the town, and he heads for the cemetery. Because where else can he go? Who else could understand him? What is he to do? Every time he tries to do something, he makes a mistake. He comes to the cemetery and he sits down on one of the graves. And a man is walking by and he sees him and he says, "What is it? Who's died?" He says, "Me. I'm dying. I'm just dying." And he tells him what he's done. And the man says to him, "You never know. What's your name, Moshe? Moshe, you'll never know. I have to tell you a story. Listen." He sits down on the other gravestone and he says to him, "Moshe, in my town, we had a thief, but not just a regular thief. A thief who was a master thief. He'd look at your tie and the clip would be gone. He'd look at your hand and the ring would be missing. He was a master thief. He got so rich, he joined the synagogue. Once he joined the synagogue, he gave up stealing because he was too respectable. Then he didn't know what to do. And it turned out that the richest man in the synagogue took pity on this poor master thief. And one day he was going by in his wagon and he saw the master thief and he was sitting outside with all the children. And he sent him for the Sabbath some challah, some fish, and a little bit to carry him through. And he went and he thanked him, the thief did. And so the wealthy man got in the habit once a week, he send him a little bit, and somehow the master thief survived. The years passed, and it happened that the day that this wealthy man died, the master thief died. Everyone in the town, except for a few of the apprentices of the master thief, went to the funeral of the wealthy man. He went up to heaven, and there they were weighing, and they said to him, "We're sorry, but you can't get in." And just then, there was this breeze, and he looks around, and he's in heaven, and he says, "What happened?" And they say to him, "Your friend, the thief, stole your sins." So we have a little joyous music, and we bless you, and we hope you will come for Kol Nidre, come next year here, and sing your hearts, that they should be open and we find the door direct.
You mentioned I owe the bank $10 million. And there is no way for me to pay. I get a telegram from the bank. Bank says, we forgive you for not paying last year. We are ready to give you a new loan of $10 million. So what do? I go back to the bank and I begin to cry. I'm so sorry I didn't pay you $10 million. The bank told me, "Sweetie, you're going on my nerves. I told you I'm giving you a new loan. What are you cracking now about the $10 million you didn't pay?" Well, this is what you're doing to God. God says, "I'll give you a new year, but stop crashing. Just be happy." And you know why we make so many mistakes? Because we are not filled with joy. What a world. What a beautiful world. How beautiful people are. How good it is to be alive. And I bless you that every minute of your life you should be alive.